How we doing? Welcome to the Legacy Wealth YouTube channel. Today I'm sitting down with my Director of Acquisitions, Mr. Nicholas Burton. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, dude?
And so we were thinking, let's do a this or that. We have one from like a year ago where we talk about, I think, single family versus multifamily. Yep. We've been going through some things and working on a lot of goals and changes in our business and refining our business over the past 6, 12, 24 months. As you know, the market shifts and things pivot and things change and what works and what doesn't. And we got to thinking of like, here's some business practices that seem like good ideas on the onset, but typically end up taking your legs out. All right, Nicholas, you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, Nick. It's been a while since we did a this or that, but I had a little bit of inspiration on the drive over here, and I thought, you know what? There's a lot of common practices amongst real estate investors and operators that I've seen and I've experienced myself with us in deals of our own, right? That we've done with other people that sound like good ideas, but end up being horrible business decisions and horrible business practices, the way that they end up playing out. And so I figured we made a list, and I think we should dive into the top 10 ways, the top 10 things that investors do that sound like good ideas but are horrible business decisions. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Let's see. I got the list here. So let's start with number 1. Sounds like a good idea. Going it alone, right? Hey, you know what? I think I can keep 100% of the equity in this deal, and I can take down this apartment building myself and handle the operations. What are your thoughts on that mindset?
You'll just never get anything done. If you're trying to do everything, you'll get nothing done. You can't be finding deals. You can't be raising money. You can't be picking up rent. You can't be changing light bulbs. You can't be renovating apartments and doing all of these things and getting them all done. You will fail at all of them. That's the best part about commercial real estate and bigger stuff, is the pieces of the pie are bigger. So you can split it up, but yeah, there's so many people that, especially on the renovation side, like I have, there's somebody that I know that was building a fence, and it was just this one person building this fence. And it wasn't that big of a fence. And it took him like 2.5 months to put his fence. And I just couldn't believe that he just wouldn't hire somebody else. If he hired one, let's say he hires 2 more people, he can get 4 times more done.
Yep.
He can do so many more fences, but he just didn't want to pay anybody to do anything and wanted to do it all himself. And it took up all of his time, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, it's coming from, I mean, we were in residential first, and you come from residential, which is a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of solo acts, a lot of solo operators move from that, and they graduate into multifamily type stuff, and they bring that same mindset. And it's not a solo sport, man. It's a team sport. It's too many moving parts, too many variables, and it's very, very difficult to do on your own. And you would just move so slowly. You know, referencing your guy who did the fence, it's like there's a value on time, and there's a value on the velocity of deals that you can move through, as opposed to just thinking about this singular deal and trying to save a couple bucks on it, or not trying to partner up. And the other thing that I would say is, like, dude, we have different, look at our team, right? Your skill set is different than Carlin's skill set, is different than Fatty's skill set, is different than mine. And we complement each other, right? We don't dance on each other's strengths. Instead, we support each other's weaknesses and fill in the gaps wherever any one of us is falling short. And I think it goes back to you got a bigger pie, right? It's like, oh, well, you got to carve this thing up 4 ways. Well, guess what? Because of you can focus on your skill set, and Carlin can focus on his skill set, I can focus on mine, and Fatty can focus on his, we're able to accomplish more as a group than we can individually, any one of us can, right? And so you don't need 100% of the deal. Now here's one thing I would say, and this is not number 2, this is in conjunction with number 1, right? So you get into a partnership. it's a good idea. Hey, let's go get into a partnership. What are the goods and bads of getting into a partnership? Why do you think it's a bad idea to get into, or what's a bad purpose and reason to get into a partnership?
Sure, if you don't want to do any work, if you don't want to put any effort in trying to partner up with people to handle everything, I think that's a big one.
Sounds good for you, right? But what about
sounds good for you until everything starts dropping the ball, and they just say screw you. And
yeah, if you don't expect to bring your value, right, then there's going to be tension in the partnership, and if you expect somebody else to do their part and expectations are not properly set, and they don't, do their part, then dude, it creates a lot more stress on you. We've been in multiple partnerships like that with other joint venture partners.
Absolutely, understanding roles, making sure that there are KPIs and stuff tracking to make sure that people hit their goals. If you say you're going to handle the rehab and you're going to get this many units done, or you're going to have this much progress done, you better be at that or close to it. And if you're not close to it on the first check-in, hey, let's try to fix some things, figure out what it is. If it's not fixed by the second check-in, some things are seriously wrong. So, but if you never set those expectations, you never set the KPIs, you never have goals or actual numerical values to it, you're just asking for failure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into partnerships because, dude, they're scared getting into something new, and they're like, I want somebody else, to commiserate with me on the tough things, and be scared with me as we progress through this. It's a bad reason to get into a partnership.
Sure.
Right? It's a bad reason to link arms with somebody and become business partners. Without very clearly defined, and usually in that scenario, they never clearly define roles, responsibilities, and like you said, the metrics, right? The measuring components of how are we going to measure our forward progress. And when you don't measure something, you can't manage something, and you need those metrics in place. And so I agree. I think getting into a partnership without clear expectations, without clear roles and responsibilities, without understanding the value that you bring versus the value that I bring, and without measuring the performance and having the communication on a regular basis. I see it all the time, man. People get into partnerships and those partnerships fall apart because they don't do those things.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's, hey, you meet them, you go, hey, we're going to be 50-50 partners. That's it. That's set. And then the first deal, they notice, hey, one person's doing 80% of the work, one person's doing 20, and it falls apart. And, Paul Larson and Jeff Gu are a great example of this, where like they're partners on a lot of deals, but they are totally free to do whatever elsewhere. They're not married. They go on a deal by deal basis, and it's great, and it works awesome for them. But they know at any point, like, hey, this doesn't work. We're only married to these deals. We're not married to future deals and all sorts of headaches.
Love that. All right, number 2. Something that sounds like a good idea, sounds very opportunistic, but usually a horrible waste of time that I've found is daisy chain deals. Yeah. Tell me about your experience with daisy chain deals.
It's what I deal with basically every day for the last almost, I guess, 8 years.
Director of acquisitions for Legacy Wealth Holdings. All the deals come through you. How many deals have we ever closed that were daisy chain, and define daisy chain deals, and then tell how many deals we've closed that were daisy chain deals?
Sure. A daisy chain deal is, let's say you have a seller. He has an apartment building. Somebody, let's say John is in contact with the seller to sell that property. John tells Mary about the deal. Mary tells Mike about the deal. Mike tells Aaron about the deal. And then Aaron tells a real buyer of the deal. And so now I have to ask Mary, to ask John, to ask Joe, to ask Bill, to ask the seller something. And if there's too many...
everybody wants a 3% fee.
Yeah, everybody wants a percentage on top. So at one point they could be asking $10 million or $10 million for the property, and there's $1 million in fees on top of it. And if I have to go through that process for every single piece of information,
forwarding an email, by the way.
Yeah, for forwarding emails. I mean, I've had people send me deals. There was this one guy sent me this deal, and I want to say I had got it a week prior from another wholesaler who I think sent it to me for about $20 million. And then a week later, a wholesaler sent it to me for $30 million. And
add a $10 million fee on there.
yeah, and I asked him straight up, I said, did you just add $10 million on this for forwarding? And he said, yes. I'm like, I mean, you got guts, man. You went for it. You went for it, dude. But I said, I'm never going to talk to you again. This is a waste of time. So,
and that's the key, right? At the end of the day, it is a waste of time. We've been in business for a long time. We've done a lot of deals at high velocity over a very long time. How many deals with daisy chainers have we ever closed?
goose egg.
None. Zero. Unless they are directly in contact with and have the property under contract, or they are an exclusive listing agent of the property, we do not engage on that property. It's just a complete waste of time. All you're doing is like think about the telephone game from when we were kids.
Yeah.
Like you go around, you play telephone. There's miscommunicated information by the time it gets to you.
Sure.
Not only that, but like there's no direct involvement, and everybody's only looking out for their own interest as opposed to trying to get a deal done.
Sure.
Every single one of them implodes.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem. As soon as a wholesaler contacts me, I'll look very briefly at what they sent me. I'll look at it, see if it's something we're even in the ballpark. If not, I just delete it. And let's say it is something. Let's say it's 100 units in Cleveland, whatever, nice stuff. And the first thing I'll say is, do you have this under contract? Do you have this under contract, or are you the owner or exclusive broker, whatever it is? And if they say no, I say, great, please put me in contact with either the seller or whoever has this under contract.
Yep.
And
well, I don't want you to rip the deal out from underneath me.
Yeah, just make sure you go get whatever signed by the seller, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah. Or here's a fee agreement. If I end up buying it, I'll kick you.
Yeah, a nominal fee. It really depends on how much value they bring. And I've had times with some wholesalers bring a ton of value and actually try, but the majority do not. They forward an email that's been forwarded 2 or 3 times, and just the emails.
And they don't even. Sometimes they don't even take it out.
Sometimes they don't. There's this one guy who sends me deals nonstop, and they're junk. They're junk deals, and I've tried working deals with him before, and it's impossible. So I've asked him probably 4 or 5 times, please just stop sending me emails.
Yeah.
Please stop.
Yeah.
And he won't.
Yeah.
He won't stop. So I've had to block his emails.
Yeah.
But if you block his emails, they still go to spam. So I still see him every once in a while. This sucks.
So aggravating.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3. Sounds like a good idea. Seems like we can get more deals done, but it's a horrible idea from our experience, is underwriting based on the seller's pro forma, or underwriting to try to make a deal happen.
Sure.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, this is very relevant now. If you do not stress these numbers, if you don't stress the rents, if you don't stress cap rates, don't stress any of your expenses or income, anything like that, and you go into a recession, let's say you were hoping back in, let's say 2019, 2018, when things are looking amazing, interest rates are super low, insurance rates are low, all this stuff, and you plan, hey, and you think you can get the nicest building in that town rents for $1,000, you think, oh, I can get $1,000 if I renovate this thing. When very rarely is it apples to apples. It's usually apples to oranges and trying to figure that out. So if you do all these things and you hope for the best across the board, you're destined to lose. A deal will never go 100% right. And if you need everything to go right, I guarantee that falls out from under you.
Yeah, I agree.
You have to plan for everything to go wrong rather than for everything to go right.
Right. And we're not saying don't underwrite a deal based on what it could be, right?
Sure.
Because there's definitely, if I was going to go flip a house, I don't care what it's worth today. I care about what it can be worth when I renovate it, right?
Yeah, and there's a very gray kind of middle there, where whatever number the seller gives you or whatever number the broker gives you as pro forma, it's going to be less than that.
Yeah.
I would say if you look at 1,000 deals, I bet a couple have it where the broker's actually lower, but 99.9% of the time, those numbers are higher. So if you underwrite, you're going to get 1,000, but realistically, you can only get 900. You're going to be in trouble.
Or they underwrite with, 5 to 8% rent growth for the next 5 years.
Sure.
Dude, fucking every deal makes sense if you do
Yeah.
that, right? Every single deal. Or they don't underwrite stress testing the taxes as if they're the property taxes.
That is probably the biggest mistake that people make.
It's the biggest miss.
Is if I go buy a property and let's say I buy it for $10 million and that seller bought it 15 years prior for $3 million. There's a good chance that he's still paying off of an assessed value of $3 million. That property is only being evaluated at that number, so they're paying tax off of $3 million bucks. But now if you buy it, and so he sends you the tax document, he goes, oh, I'm paying $10,000 a year in taxes. You go, great, I'm paying $10,000 a year in taxes. It's not happening.
No.
Your taxes are essentially going to triple.
Yep.
They're going to go way up, and a lot of people miss that. And when it's time to stroke that check to the bank, they're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it eats up all your cash flow that you thought you were going to have.
Sure.
So it's stress testing that. I mean, we're seeing it with insurance rates over the past 2 years.
Insurance rates, just over the last 6-12 months, are out of this world.
Yeah.
We used to be able to get insurance rates for $300 to $500 a unit. I mean, I got sent a deal the other day. Granted, it's on the Gulf of Mexico, but it was like $3,500 a unit in insurance a year.
Yeah.
It was like...
Dude, 7 times what we've always paid in the past.
It was like, and it was a big property too. It was like 600 units or something. And you're paying millions and millions and millions of dollars a year to just insurance.
Yep. You got to stress test rents. You got to stress test insurance. You got to stress test taxes to what they're going to be reassessed to. You got to stress test what your maintenance might be. You might be renovating it, but there's probably going to be a maintenance reserve, or if you don't renovate it, then maintenance is going to be all over the board. So like, you got to expect those things and stress each one of them. And if you stress all of them and you almost try to kill the deal and the deal still works, then
it's a good deal.
It's a deal. So the fourth thing that, hey, this is a path of least resistance to raising capital is, I would say, and a horribly bad practice is just the loose capital raising efforts, right? Things like, oh, hey, I can go post this deal on social media. Yeah, and if the SEC sees that you post that deal on social media and it's not a 506c investment that you're allowed to generally solicit, or you don't have the paperwork in place, dude, you could go to friggin' jail, right? Or you can be blacklisted by the SEC and never be able to raise money ever again. Loose capital raising practices.
I mean, that's why I don't do it, right? Like, I have somebody who knows what they can, knows what they can't do, and pretty much handles that whole side of things. And you know, if you don't know how to do it, I think it's important to do it with somebody who has. Right. Because I've seen so many people get burned. I see it on social media all the time where, like, even I know, like, I don't think you could do that. Like, that looks like you're going to get in trouble. And
using the word guaranteed is a loose practice. It's a horrible. You can get in so much trouble. You're not allowed to guarantee anything when raising capital, especially in an equity position, right? So you can't say, oh, I'm going to pay you an 8% pref, and that's guaranteed. No, it's not guaranteed. Even if you plan on going to the grave with making sure that your investors get paid that 8% prior to you ever making a dime, even if you have that intent, you still can't guarantee it, right? Like, you're not allowed to say that. Oh, hey, you know, this is just a small deal. I don't need to put the proper paperwork together. The private placement memorandum and those things are expensive. And, you know, I think this one can skate by. Dude, not a good idea. Right? If that deal goes south and that one deal that you thought would be an easy, small deal goes bad and the SEC finds out about it, you can, again, be forbidden from ever raising capital for anything ever again. Yeah,
it's just not worth it. The short-term cost, if you do not spend that short-term cost, it's going to ruin your long-time wealth.
Yep, agreed.
Just mic drop on that.
Boom. In conjunction with that, number 5, I would say is lack of communication with the investors. Under communicating, right? What's the saying? Is no news is
good news. Not the case. Not the case at all. If I don't hear something like, you know, we have investors that like hearing about it all the time, and we have some people that don't really care. They just know it's good. But let's say you had one of those investors that wants to hear about it all the time, and you're not telling them anything. It's just going to get you more trouble. People want the clarity, even if things are going bad, things are going good, whatever it is. People like being in the know so they can prepare for whatever might happen, or just, hey, this is how they're going to pivot. They want to know how that's going to go.
Yeah, and I think even if you communicate the negative things that are happening, right? Like any sophisticated business owner, anybody who makes money, who should have money in your deals, they've been through business. They know how many hurdles you face and how many curveballs get thrown at you. And if you only always bring good news, that to me doesn't meet the sniff test of like,
Sure.
something's weird here. They only bring me good news. Being part of it, I want to know, what are the hurdles that you're facing? What are the the struggles that you're facing? What are the arrows that you're taking? And you don't just bring problems though either to somebody. You bring, hey, here's a couple of things that we were facing, and here's how we overcame them, or here's how we're in the process of overcoming those things. And that builds more goodwill with your investors than only bringing them good news all the time.
Yep, absolutely.
We send a quarterly update. I almost think that we should do a quarterly update on a per property basis. And then a thing that I want to implement, I talked to Fatty about this, is a monthly newsletter as well, of just saying, hey, here's what we're seeing in the market, right? If, Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank go bankrupt in the middle of a quarter and we don't give an update for another 45 or 60 days, I probably am a little bit squirmish about what's going on, or where my investment is.
Yeah.
Are our bank accounts with either of those? Do we have any cash in those accounts? And I think giving a monthly update with a quarterly property level, because it does turn into a full-time job.
Sure.
Giving updates on properties, especially granular, like some of them can get. But I think giving an overall, here's how things are going, here's some shifts that we're making on a monthly basis, is a good way of doing it. And our investors know that they can call us or email us at any time, and we'll hop on a call or respond to their email. So, we're trying to over communicate that. I always try to mention that in all of our quarterly updates as well. Like, don't hesitate to reach out. If you got a question, hit me up in between. You don't have to wait for these things to come out. But yeah, I think under communicating and telling your investor that no news is good news is not a good business practice. All right, number 6, business practice that I see people fumbling over and need to think through, and they don't think through it, would be the loan terms.
Yeah.
When I think back to 2008 and a lot of people who went bankrupt in 2008, it was because loans got called due because of certain requirements and things like that, even if it was performing, though they can call the loan due, and it created a situation that was a domino effect on good investors, good operators. That something happened in the market that created this domino effect in their portfolio, and then all their loans started getting called due and they end up going bankrupt. So that's one thing, right? Like, what are the terms that a lender can call your loan due? If it's operating properly, can they call it due? If not, that's a good loan because you don't want it. Second thing that I'm looking at is recourse versus non-recourse, right? Is there personal liability versus, their only recourse against that loan going bad is taking the property back. Another thing that I'm looking at is that I think a lot of people didn't pay attention to with a lot of the deals that they got and they refinanced or acquired over the past couple of years is the prepayment penalties. And so there's prepayment penalties that something called yield maintenance, right? A lender makes a loan to you. Nick, you take a 10-year loan out, right? It's a 30-year amortization. There's a 10-year balloon. As the lender, I'm expecting to make a certain amount of money on this loan. And I put it in the documents that if you pay me off early, dude, I was expecting to make 10 years of interest on this. And, it might only be a 3.5 or 4% interest rate. And so I was expecting to get that. And you pay me off in year 2, yield maintenance states that you have to pay me the other 8 years of interest, and that's your prepayment penalty.
Yeah.
Now there's kind of a next level to that, in that if the rates go up, like they have over the past 12 months, a lender can take your money on your $1 million loan, let's say, and I can take your money and I can put it into a U.S. Treasury bill, right? And I can get a bigger return today. I can make 5% on that. And so if I could take my money as the lender and put it into a Treasury bill and make a bigger return on it than what your interest rate is, then it's the differential there. It's not about you paying me 8 years of interest, I can make more money, so I want you to pay me off, so there's no prepayment penalty in that. Or there might be just like a 1% transaction or whatever. Now, here's where it gets squirrely. Rates have gone up. If rates go up and you refinance up here and then you plan on selling in 5 years but rates go down, your prepayment, that means the treasury bill is paying 1%, right? And you have to pay the differential of a 5.5% to 1%. So you have to pay 4.5%, a bigger spread for the remaining lifetime of your loan than what it is, right? When versus just keeping it. So you have to pay attention to that, and a lot of people, I don't think, understand what prepayment penalties look like. Sometimes it's a step down of saying, hey, it's 5%, 4%, 3%, 2% of the loan amount. But many times, especially on these commercial loans, it's a yield maintenance, which means you got to pay the whole thing based on the differential of what the treasury bill is. And what comes into all that is it assumable?
Yeah.
Or not, right?
That's one of our first questions now, is because, hey, these people that bought in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that they have a couple years left on their loan, maybe 5 years, 10 years left, something like that. Their rate's 3, 4, 5%.
Way down here, right?
Way down there. And so, yeah, is it assumable? Because before that, a couple years ago, we were asking, is there a prepayment penalty? Because a lot of the assumable loans that we were able to get were higher than what we could get. So it's, hey, is the loan assumable, or is there a prepayment penalty? And we might be happy to pay that prepayment penalty if we can get a better rate, but not anymore.
Or higher LTV, or just understanding that. And to your point, man, it creates opportunity in the obstacle. It's hard to go and find deals right now. Well, is it? Well, you're underwriting that deal based on a 5.5% interest rate with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or somebody, versus, did you even ask if there's an assumable loan in place?
Yes.
And maybe there is an assumable loan for 60% of the purchase price, and it's at 3.5% interest rate. Well, dude, that gives you a lot more bandwidth to now go and either raise more money or pay a higher return to your investors, and get that deal done. So it's looking not just at the face value of a deal, but also diving deeper and understanding what the loan terms look like, as opposed to just who's willing to give me money. That's the first person who raises their hand willing to give you money, you shouldn't take that loan. Not saying it's not the best terms. It's just like, look at all the different loan terms and weigh out all the different terms and understand what the exit is, right, before you even acquire the property or put new financing in place. So that is the first 5 business practices in commercial real estate that seem like they might be decent practices or might seem like a good idea, but are actually horrible business practices. That's the first 5. We're going to get the next 5 next week.